Welcome to Inside Pitch. I'm Jeff Gordon's Post-Dispatch, joined by our columnist Lynn Worthy. And you know, last few weeks, Lynn, we've been pumping a lot of sunshine because the Cardinals went on a very nice run, winning at home, winning on the road, beating good teams, beating bad teams, put themselves in the playoff chase. Now they've got a really tough schedule coming up in June, a lot of games, not much rest, and that's going to create a huge challenge for the pitching staff. We've seen a little bit of fraying from a couple of the guys who have been really reliable, putting more pressure on the bullpen, and of course that causes the bullpen to feel more strained, and it showed.
Yeah, you talk about sunshine. We're starting to see a little bit of the clouds roll in, I think, just in terms of the recent pitching. Guys that hadn't really hit bumps in the road, a guy like Matthew Liberatore, who you could have made the case was their best starter. He goes to Texas and has a rough outing where he gives up, I think it was 5 runs in 5 innings. Andre Palante, another guy who had been one of their most consistent starters, gives up 7 runs against the Royals. So you're starting to see some guys, whether it's just that mid-season little bump in the road or anything starting to catch up with them, time will tell, but they're not giving you quite the outings that you had seen earlier this season.
Now the Cardinals get a 7-2 lead. Palante's rolling along. He's got 13 outs in a row. He starts getting hit pretty good, and because of the tough schedule ahead, because of the condition of the bullpen, trying to save arms, trying to be prepared for the grind, Ollie tries to run with Andre for a bit. It does not work. It makes sense for him to try to ride with him, but that's the sort of pressure point you're going to see going through this stretch where you're trying to get the starters as deep as you can get them, and you're concerned about keeping a bullpen functioning.
Yeah, and you've tried to, piece together what you need to piece together to get to Phil Maton and Ryan Helsley, your 2 veteran guys at the back end. But sometimes getting there, you've got to try and lean on some guys who haven't necessarily had a whole lot of experience. A guy like Kyle Leahy had been really strong for them in recent outings, or I should say in earlier outings. And recently, I think he's had about 3 or 4 outing stretch where he's given up runs, hits, walks, stuff that wasn't happening earlier. So you're starting to see a little bit more of that pressure mount on that bullpen, and it might lead to actually some changes with the pitching staff overall in the coming days here. Potentially 6-man rotation is something that they've talked about, but we haven't quite got the details on that yet.
Yeah, as far as the bullpen goes and trying to run a shuttle from Memphis to St. Louis, that part doesn't really work because while guys down there give you a different look, they really don't give you much better chance to succeed. The intriguing part is Michael McGree, because he has been effective at the AAA level. He has been effective at this level. He is the one card you can play as you try to deal with this pressure point.
He's the one card, and that also leaves Steven Matz, who's been effective in the bullpen, leaves him in that spot as opposed to bringing him back to the rotation. So that sort of shores up, or at least you think you'd be strong in 2 spots by doing that. You don't have a whole lot of depth behind McGreevy. That's the whole reason that he's down there, though. So that'll be interesting to see how that factors into the decision. But the other bullpen arms, we've seen most of those guys, whether it's Roycroft, obviously Fernandez hasn't been back since he was up here earlier and struggled. They're guys who've got great stuff and who have shown the ability, but they haven't shown it consistently. So that's probably the top options you'd be turning to if you're trying to go bullpen route from AAA.
Let's talk about the 2 runway guys. Jordan Walker finally got going, got some traction, got a big smile on his face, but he's got a nagging wrist problem. They don't want that to be a season-long issue. They've seen what that can do to a hitter and what sort of problems that can cause. Trying to get him reset, that has opened the door, plus all these extra games or without as much rest, for Nolan Gorman maybe to get a little runway, and that's been a recent positive on the offensive side.
Yeah, you don't want to see Walker losing the at-bats, because especially as it seemed like he was starting to get a little bit of a traction going there, gain some traction there. But as he's trying to work through ups and downs, physical ailment is not something that you want to add into that equation. Meanwhile, with Gorman, he's been sort of a secondary factor off of the bench, starting here and there, not getting consistent at bats, but now that he's going to get that chance, it'll be interesting to see what he does with it, because he's shown some signs that maybe he's starting to find a groove. And now if he's able to get at bats in a consistent sort of a basis, then it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Now this team went into the month in pretty good shape, but this is an interesting division, Lynn. You got obviously the Cubs had a nice change of pace with their schedule, where they had some easier teams. They took advantage of that situation. Milwaukee went on a winning streak. Cincinnati's been competitive with Terry Francona running the show. 4 teams in this division not much respect for the NL Central coming into the year, but actually this is going to be a fun race.
And the next month should really be interesting to see where the Cardinals land at the end of that. I mean, especially since at that point you'll start thinking ahead to the trade deadline. But you talk about 28 games in 29 days. The Brewers had just gone on an 8-game win streak, so that puts them right behind the Cardinals, with the Cubs also leading the division. So you've got 4 teams that are either above 500 or right within shouting distance of 500. And they'll all be starting to play each other as well as we get to that point in the schedule with this balanced schedule where you have long stretches where they don't see each other. Now they're going to start facing each other. So a lot of things in the division should start to take shape in the next couple of weeks.
Well, that's Lynn Worthy. I'm Jeff Gordon. This is Inside Pitch. We'll be here all season. Reminder that all the cool extra stuff we do on our digital edition of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch over at stltoday.com is sitting there waiting for you. If you're not a digital subscriber, please sign up, support local journalism, and see all the cool stuff that Lynn, myself, Derek, Daniel, all the guys are doing, Benjamin. So please keep supporting us. Until next time for Lynn, I'm Jeff. See you later.